Slender. Now this word does not inspire us any fear, but in our memory we recall images of a huge semblance of a man without a face, wearing a jacket and a red tie. In reality, Slender looks very different. The only thing that converges is the 2-meter tall and not having his face. The only thing he looks different in real life is that he's about 2 meters tall and doesn't have a face. Tales of him running away or letting someone go aren't true. He's very bloodthirsty. He kills everyone. You can't run away from him or hide from him. Alina is a beautiful girl, 20 years old, studying at the philological department of Moscow State University. She had enough money not to live in the dormitory, but to rent a nice two-room apartment not far from the university. The house was very old, 4 stories high, but the apartment was decent, with good repair. The girl was not very surprised that she had almost no neighbors in the entrance hall, only the apartment across the street, in which lives grandmother, slightly out of place, and the apartment on the first floor. There lives a cheerful man, about 35. Alina noticed in his eyes fatigue and some kind of fear, but did not give it any importance. Alina had trouble falling asleep for a long time. She had the feeling that someone was watching her, but she referred to the fact that she always sleeps badly in a new place. In the morning she woke up, made herself some coffee, washed her face, and went to university. She came back late in the evening, for she had gone to cafes and shopping with her friends. I went into the apartment, opened the door to the room, and everything was overturned. As they say, upside down, things scattered. The closet is on its side, the bed is overturned, and the strangest thing, the window is open wide. Alina was seriously frightened, called her boyfriend Sergei, and as soon as she shut the door, she heard a conversation in the apartment across the street. She listened and realized that there was only one voice, and it belonged to the grandmother of the neighbor. Alina became curious. She came closer and heard only 4 words that the grandmother kept repeating, "He's coming for you." Alina was very frightened. Her body did not obey. She stood hunched over in front of the door, when suddenly a cold hand rested on her shoulder. Alina cried out with all her might, turned around and sighed with relief, having realized that it was Uncle Grisha, a neighbor from the first floor. "Now it's looking for you too."
What? Who's looking?
Slender. Alina left, thinking it was some kind of ridiculous prank. She remembered the kind pictures where a faceless man in a suit and tie, holding out a candy to a girl, different computer games that she had played before at night, where she had to look for notes in the woods, and all this made her feel calm. But that feeling soon faded away. "Come on, I'll show you something," interrupted her thoughts Uncle Grisha. Alina did not argue and followed the man. They entered his apartment, and Alina guessed. All the walls were covered with pictures of the creature, clippings from newspapers about missing people, and what was on one of the walls struck the girl the most. I see you was written in blood across the width of the wall. Now he has chosen you, as well as all the residents of this unfortunate house. They all died at his hands, without letting Alina say a word. Uncle Grisha said it happened to me 5 years ago. I, like you, rented an apartment in this house. But after 2 days, he began to come to me. He tried to kill me in every way. He came into the apartment and tried to cut my throat with a kitchen knife, or tried to strangle me himself. In fact, he's just trying to get you out of the apartment so that you can go outside, where you can't hide from him. I've taken steps. I always have a hunting rifle next to my bed. I close the windows with shutters at night, and I wait for him. I advise you to do the same with the windows. Alina did not answer anything. The girl remembered about meeting her boyfriend and ran away with only a quiet "thank you." She told the young man everything, and he agreed to stay with her for a while. The second night passed terribly. All the time she heard footsteps in the apartment, banging on the windows, and as if someone was banging on the roof. All day long, Alina and her boyfriend worked at home, making shutters for the windows, as Uncle Grisha had said. In addition, Sergei had a traumatic gun, and he also installed cameras in all the rooms and one outside the window. So the plan to protect against Slender was even overdone. The third night was the scariest. All the time someone was pounding on the windows with such force that they seemed to shatter. The pounding on the roof was maddening, and the footsteps in the apartment could be heard more clearly than anywhere else. Watching the recordings on the computer, Sergei was frightened out of his mind, but he did not show it. He was ashamed in front of the girl. It all started on the first camera at 215 am. The light came on. The water started flowing from the faucet at 335 am. On the second camera, the glass in the sideboard cracked, the cracks spreading further to form the words "T interficiendum." The worst was on the fourth camera outside the window. 210 am. An arm slides off the roof, exactly human, only very long. And a second arm appears, exactly the same. It grasps the edge of the roof with one hand and our window sill with the other. Its body and head appear. The body is completely white, reminiscent of an eraser, with no clothes on. There were no signs of any gender either. There were 12 tentacles sticking out of his back. The scariest part was the head. It was empty, with no eyes, mouth, nose, or even ears. It was hanging off the edge of the roof, and then its head turned sharply toward the camera. The thing crawls toward it, and some sort of change occurs on its face. It feels like a mouth is erupting. That's right, a mouth. It's not at all clear where it came from. The creature blurts out an ugly grin. The camera starts to get a lot of static, and it shuts down. So a year passed in fear. The boys stayed up at night, waiting for him to strike again. But over the next year, the incidents occurred less frequently, until it ended altogether. Alina and Sergei finally lived a normal life without fear until the last Slender's blow happened, forgetting everything. Alina went to a club on her birthday with all her friends and her young man. At the time, Sergei saved up for a nice car, and they went to the club. After 3 hours of fun at the club, the guy decided to go out for a smoke and check on the car. He didn't come back after an hour, not even 2. Alina got worried and went outside, and what she saw shocked her so much that she almost fainted. Bloodied, Sergei's corpse lay on the road, his head on the roof of the car, and "You're next" scrawled on the windshield. Alina cried out in fear, pity, and helplessness. A blow followed, a loss of consciousness. The girl no longer felt any pain. Everything happened very quickly. Alina's friends came out 15 minutes later and saw a horrifying sight. 2 dead bodies, a sea of blood, and written in blood on the pavement, "Wait for me. I'll be back." Uncle Grisha, after another night out, went out to the mailboxes and picked up an issue of the newspaper Mackay. 10 minutes later, there was a clipping from that very newspaper hanging on his wall. 2 young men were brutally murdered near the Vavilon Club in Moscow. Details are being investigated. No suspects. Thank you so much for your attention. Subscribe to the channel. See you soon.